Early in the third season of Avatar The Last Airbender, there's an episode where Sokka goes to meet a famous swordsmaster in the Fire Nation to be trained because he doesn't bend, he feels inadequate to the other, gang members, Aang members, or whatever, who can bend. So this whole episode is beautiful. It's about him really becoming a capable swordsman. He forges his own sword. He spars with this swordsmaster, and in the end, he matches his level. This has come to me a lot lately in prayer. This is kind of where I am as far as the spiritual life. Not that I have or will ever meet the silence of Joseph on his level, obviously, but just the idea of sparring with a master, the idea that he wants me to become better at this skill of silence. So if you'll remember, some episodes ago I did kind of something talking about the desert, what it means and everything, why I found myself there, and why I found myself attracted to St. Joseph. And that's what I want to talk about today, sort of trials of the desert. So what is the desert? Well, for me, it's been this subjective analogy for being free of distractions, for a distraction deficit. The harshness of facing the present moment is hard work for me, especially when I come from a background of just this lifestyle of constant drowning myself out through social media, through music, through games and everything. And this presents a new way, a very challenging way to interact with the present moment, which is the prerequisite to meaningful prayer as well. So that's kind of what the desert is and has been for me. It's real work to get there, and it's also real work to maintain it. So this is my skill lately, my lesson in learning how to wield this. The sword is not a weapon as it is in Avatar. It is silence. So I've been, I guess you could say, sparring with St. Joseph about silence. Not that he's being adversarial, but that he's teaching me how to go deeper. He's showing me that I should and can. So this has facilitated encounters with God, this whole framework of the desert. See, I jumped ahead from my notes a little bit. So it's definitely a great framework for just re-entering the present moment throughout the day. I just take a minute, I think about the desert, I think about being in the desert with St. Joseph, or with Jesus, or with, and it's never or, it's always both and, right? So this just re-entry into the prayer realm, I suppose. So I've taken some hits. I've had a lot of lurid distractions in the last several weeks. I got back on Instagram, just spur of the moment thing, first time in several years, to be honest with you. I was like, well, I guess I could get on it in moderation. And then the exact same thing happened with Netflix. I was like, oh wow, they've got an $8 a month version that is ad supported. I don't see any reason not to do that. And then the same thing happened with Pokemon Go, which is a game I had played consistently for years and then finally gave up because it got really cringe. And now I'm like wanting to be outside more, wanting to explore a little more, and re-downloaded the app. So like, in the context of like the desert and learning silence, it's clear to me that these are obstacles or adversaries or hits I've taken while sparring with Joseph. Not that he's trying to throw me off my game, not that he's acting against my best interest, but he's just showing me how these elements interact, showing me that there is a challenge, a fight to be silent. So not only are all these things distractions, but those distractions are turned up to 11 if I get onto them in the mornings or whatever. So these have all been ways in which I've kind of taken a hit, and I've fallen into a lot of this stuff. I've fallen for it, you could say. I am getting on Instagram regularly, and I am playing Pokemon Go regularly still. And all of this happens as soon as I encountered the desert. Throughout all of this, a common theme emerges, which is that I've used all of the distractions. I've run from the present moment, which I now call the desert, right? I run from being present of mind into these distractions, into this distracted lifestyle, because these are all defense mechanisms to hide from God, to hide from myself and from the present moment. And I think this comes from a wounded image of who God is, a fear of the present moment due to past traumas, and a fear of myself due to like extreme anxiety. I've struggled with other stuff in the past like that. So just hiding, trying to be safe. There is a lot of old wounds here. There are a lot of old wounds here, old walls and everything that I'm constantly trying to work through. And this journey through into God, into the church more deeply, is showing me those and inviting me to healing. So, yeah, it's so much easier to stay asleep, to stay distracted, to pull out Pokemon Go, right, than it is to work for presence, to make that effort to, get out of my head and into the present moment. That's been very difficult for me. Now, this reminds me of a book I'm reading. I just picked up, heard about it on Pints with Aquinas. It's by John Eldredge, who admittedly is evangelical, but it's still got some good stuff in it. And he talks about, this will be page 39. Here's the book right here. Kind of pretty, right? He talks about something that kind of struck home or brought this theme back around for me. He quotes, who does he quote? Carol Stock Kranowitz, who wrote Out of Sync Child, and the quote is this: "Forts, as in box forts made of blankets for kids and whatever. Forts help children reset their stressed bodies and brains. The darkness inside a fort eliminates the stimulus they do not need and intensifies what they do need: physical comfort and solitude, safety and control. We seek out comfort. We need to restore order." This rung true for me in that my box fort is kind of all of this digital stuff. It's kind of hiding in meme culture, hiding in even humor, hiding in distraction, hiding from the present moment in order to feel more safe. So that kind of brings things around for me. Okay, so if it's so hard to stay in the present moment, if it's so hard to dig myself out of distraction, then why even bother, Why not just enjoy playing Pokemon and never have a serious thought again? And I tried to write a few reasons down. I think I nailed it mostly. These aren't long answers, though. The first one is fulfillment of the person in communion with God. So going down this distractive rabbit hole leads ultimately to more anxiety, more fear. The less you go outside, let's say the less you drive on the highway, the more you're going to get a little neurotic about driving on the highway, right? The more distracted and hidden I am, the less I want to go outside, and the more anxious I get. Another reason is that distraction, I just blended those two reasons. Yeah, distraction is ultimately a cause of anxiety, fear, and isolation. Fulfillment and communion with God is our ultimate end. In other words, it feels better to fight, to get close to Jesus and everything. So ultimately, the distracted lifestyle is a lifestyle of slavery and death, of subjugation by this little rectangle, right? We're meant for more. And then all that wraps into discovering a family. Jesus is trustworthy and not traumatizing is the biggest lesson I've been learning lately. I'm going through a healing course, one of those JP2 Center Bob Shoots things with a local parish, and yeah, that's been a big theme. Before I was Catholic, I found myself drifting more and more into the frantic Holy Spirit Pentecostal type places because I felt I should, not because I wanted to, not because I valued it. But learning since becoming Catholic that Jesus is actually a gentle person who cares for me and who will not traumatize me has been a profound thing. So, that being the reason I hide in the phone, being resolved in itself has lent itself to more of me coming out into the present moment. Slowly and surely, I backslide constantly. It's not easy, but that is a good motivator because I am discovering a family. I am finding that I'm part of this body of Christ. Okay, so I would like to think that these videos are slowly becoming less rambly. I feel like this was a really coherent outline, and if you agree, I'd love to get some affirmation or some constructive criticism. But we're going to bring it home now on lessons learned. So what are some of these lessons? Now, I will say I have not gotten off social media altogether. I've not deleted Pokemon off my phone because the first lesson I feel like is that distractions come and go and that my silence must be less shakable than simply fearing and avoiding certain things that throw me off my game. So this could be a cope, this could be like, no, you just need to get off social media. And it may come to that. I'm constantly boring into my own motivations for things. But if I keep social media on my desktop or only get on it at work, that's something I've been doing lately. My work is a little slow sometimes, so I'll just use that time to flip through the memes and send memes to friends and whatever, because there is some value there. Same with Pokemon. I'll just go get a few gyms while I'm out. I won't be on it all day, that kind of thing. And then the goal is to dip my toes into something in order to get the goods out of it, but not to overindulge, and then come back to silence. Like I said, this could be a cope. I don't know yet. So I do feel like whether or not it is, I need to live a lifestyle in which silence is the first step, it's the foundation, and it's not shakeable anyway, right? Or at least not for any long period of time, right? Like, I'm going to be distracted at times. I'm going to lose my silence at times. But to be able to come back to that firmly and quickly is the goal, right? Lesson number 2, avoidance of the desert can happen without any stimuli at all. The desert is a choice, and I've noticed that even sometimes on days where I don't get on any of this stuff at all, I don't do any of the things that cause me to be distracted, I can just be distracted within my own head. I can just choose not to engage with the present moment, with the desert, choose not to enter this sort of walk of prayer at all, So while these distractions do like set that to light speed, I can still be very distracted without any of that. So the desert is still a choice even if I don't have any of these other stimuli. Final lesson, I think fun is also okay. Instagram, Netflix, Pokemon Go in moderation are okay, I think. And that just comes down to, I think, how I interact with them, how I notice myself being disposed to them. So if it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't work for you, that's great. I'm trying to decide if it works for me or not. I think it does when I have certain boundaries in place. And I will also say something else that's a distraction that I can't really get rid of is my texting app, talking to people, especially this group chat I'm in, which is a lot of fun. But, I can't very well lock myself out of messages or whatever for certain parts of the day. So that goes right back around into silence must be less shakeable. It must be more of a choice. So yeah, all right. In conclusion, here's the conclusion, I guess, a final thought. I almost dropped the whole idea of this sort of journey, this sort of desert thing in the first place, because I was like, well, this is just a little gem, a little nugget. I'm going to move on with my life. But I realized that it's actually a journey and a skill to work at and allow myself to be trained in by Joseph in the Sokka Swordmaster training idea. And it's not just, like I say, it's not just shiny nuggets to forget about in 6 months. I want this to be bigger. I want this to be my regular framework for entering the present moment. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now. The distractions, when I am in distraction mode, have gotten a lot worse, and I think that's because I recognize that I can do a lot better in the present moment. I'm also having like weird like memory issues. If I'm super distracted, I just don't remember things, but I think that's normal. Maybe it's just brain rot, I don't know. So yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you think. How are you doing? How do you stay in the present moment? Is all of this kind of weird and wacky, or does it actually make sense? So yeah, that's where I am. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, pray for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.